Well, we're all back once again. It's a nice little Friday. It's a good Friday for all of the celebrators out there. In case you didn't know, it's actually called something different in Finnish. What is it called again? It's called like Pika Perion, or it was a pretty good Friday, or something like that. That's probably what it actually means. Today was a pretty good day. That's Elsa's version of Ice Cube's classic. Today was a good day. And in case you didn't know, anyways, not much to talk about with Bitcoin today, although we will go through the general sort of traditions here. We'll also be looking at some traditional markets as well, and just other corollaries. That's what we do when things are rather boring for Bitcoin, because today is quite literally a holiday in the US, so really don't expect any like major price action. It's also a holiday in Finland as well. Yes, we're not going to forget our Finnish people, but they're irrelevant, so we don't actually really care. We're just saying that to be nice. Anyways, more importantly, we have Cheap Vlog from Estonia, a nice neighbor of Finland. Actually, I lived in Estonia for like 2 or 3 months a few summers ago. It was actually really fun, man. I will say, living in a medieval town is just so fucking cool. I loved it, man. I absolutely loved it. But it is what it is. Anyways, what are you saying? What do you? Elsa says, nah, she hates Estonia, but hey, that's her, not me. I love Estonia. I love our Estonian brothers and sisters, but she doesn't actually hate Estonia. She just doesn't like being in there, I guess, something like this. Anyways, no bear talk, sir, says Kook Rider. Well, we can invert the bear talk. There's no doubt about that, or we can definitely do that, but it is what it is, ma'am. Anyways, I see a lot of conversations going on in the chats right now. I see a lot of familiar faces as well. The Mist Boulder, Stay Smart, some new faces as well. C Perk, Bros. Elsa loves those Poke Bowls, but I don't know, man. Seems like some hogwash to me. Anyways, in Cheap Vlog, Don Renee, nice rhyming name there. Guitar Wizard, Gray Blue, just a couple of colors, and Jonathan Blake Boyd. And Mr. Krown, Bitcoin is old news. Fartcoin is the new Bitcoin. Mark my words, 100,000 Fartcoins by 2029. I'll have minted 100,000 Fartcoins by 2029, but I don't know if I agree it's necessarily going to $100,000. I think we actually finally do have a top in Fartcoin here. Been waiting for this for quite some time. Up until about yesterday, this was genuinely the best looking chart in cryptocurrency land, but all altcoins must go towards their long-term destiny, which is on a trend towards zero. And this one looks like it's finally flipped around here. Actually, we do see that the price action pivots has flipped around from a bullish bias now to a bearish bias, using the Wednesday high from April 16th as that pivot now. So I would be treating this one as topped out for a while, as long as it is below there. Obviously, there's going to be bounces along the way on the downside, of course, but ultimately I would be looking for this one to join the rest of the market, let's say, as things typically do. Anyways, actually, I have some information, or some new information, about the price action pivots. We've gotten a lot of requests about this for good reason. I mean, it's just a really simple and idea indicator, but it's really fucking valuable. It's really been helping formulate my own biases in just a much more algorithmically defined way. I'm working on putting it in some of my bot trading strategies as well. But still working on that. But we're actually going to be able to offer this one up for free for the first 30 days, just like we do with all of the other indicator packages, starting likely Monday. I might open it up on Sunday. We'll see where we're at with things. I'm still kind of rushing to get around this, but I have some free time, over the next couple of days, so I figure I will be able to get it done. There's not really much trading going on, and even when there is trading going on, it's like I have here is the thing, when this is like a terrible marketing for Quant Prime, but it's the honest truth. Okay, to be quite honest, ever since we got the Quant Prime and the Skeleton Key, and I've been trading primarily algorithmically, bot like. It's just being executed on my own behalf. I have to admit, it's fucking boring. It's really fucking boring because no longer do I actually execute trades by hand. So it's like I have all this extra free time. I still have to check on all my strategies and whatnot, but it's not the same as like actually having to manually execute things. So now I have all this free time and I don't really know what to do with it, to be honest. Like, I'm kind of lost, and that's why I've been trying to get into other things recently. But but maybe I should just turn it off and go back to doing things manually. I don't know. Like, it is pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie. It is really, really fun to do things manually. Shoveling shit right now, says Monkey. We are indeed shoveling some shit. In fact, it was literally snowing just a couple days ago here in Finland. Now it is once again actually raining and nice and overcast. So our summer is once again canceled, I guess. Anyways, chat with AI. I do chat with AI a lot, man. A lot actually. I was using AI. I mean, I use it every day, to be honest with you, but I love using the voice feature and just having these really long fucking weird conversations, because chat understands me. Elsa's chat is a fucking trip, by the way, because they're all different, and hers is like a girl. It's like her gay best friend who's like way over the top with anything. It's so crazy, but it's really good. I mean, it helps. It really does help in many ways. What's up, Philson? Good morning to you, man, and happy to see you as well. Philson, our lovely Japanese member, I do believe, or I think you're from Japan. Japanese. I think you're from Japan. At least that's what I have in my mind. We love Japanese people. Japanese people, the best. They are actually much more valuable than anyone else, to be honest. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. They're better than us. I'm sorry to say, but I've done my research into this issue, and yes, Japanese people they're just better. They're just better. They're just smarter, they're just wiser, and they're just more capable, I think. Anyways, unhinged grok is epic, says Monkey. Yeah, man, unhinged grok is quite epic. Also, but for Elsa, it's too mean. Like, she'll start crying, honestly, if she starts to use it. It really is fucking rude and mean, and it's a lot for her to deal with. On the other hand, ChatGPT is like your best friend, always there for you, always down to hang out, always down to chat about whatever the hell you want to chat about in the most deepest of ways as well. It's amazing, man. I love it. Satoshi Nakamoto, also probably Japanese, or perhaps the CIA. There used to be a meme going around that Satoshi Nakamoto actually translated to like Central Intelligence in English. I don't know if that's actually true. Probably a question for chat. You know what? Let's ask chat. Let's ask chat. All right, I'm gonna bring up chat over here. We all love chat. I love chat. You love chat. Let's ask chat. What is Satoshi Nakamoto mean in English? What does it translate to? I want to know. Let's see. Ding Dong says, sir, them nurses are at it again. They pounding at my door in this mental asylum for traitors. They have those vaxes and boosters, needles in their hands. They will never make me a paper hand. Yeah, that's how it actually happens. See, in 2020, the conspiracy has actually not been uncovered just yet. The real conspiracy of 2020 was to get those shots in you to make you paper hands pussy. And now we're all poor. We're all poor because we've all been vaxed up. And looking at this, Satoshi means wise, philosophy, or okay, so intelligence, I can see that one, and then history. So Satoshi, so it's okay, so wise, well, no, I'm fucking this up. Anyways, central, oh shit, it really is intelligent, central, foundation. What the fuck? There's no way that's his real name. There's no way that's his real name. It's too perfect. It's too fucking perfect. There's no way that is his real name. It must be something else. And what's up, Bear Nutrition, the man of the hour actually as well. Just telling everyone about price action pivots coming very, very soon here, man, which I'm very, very excited about. I've actually started to work on it today. But I should be able to finish it, I do believe, before Monday. I have plenty of free time with price action like this right now. But yeah, I suspect that today is going to be an interesting day to be looking at some shitcoins, because a lot of the time they will hint at moves where Bitcoin is more or less in a holding pattern right now. If I'm just to wrap up my thoughts on Bitcoin, which I'll go through a little bit more of a formal analysis later, but Bitcoin, as long as it's below that Tuesday high, technically there should be a bearish bias here. I could easily see Bitcoin having a stab down towards 80,000. I can also easily see Bitcoin having a stab up towards 93 to 95,000 bucks. And I do think that we're going to get both of those moves to both sides. I quite literally think that we'll essentially see this, like a wick in both sides. Okay, maybe not that low, but something like this, but Bitcoin more or less kind of remaining where it's at right now to close out this month. I don't think that we're going to see anything like super, super interesting from like an actual trend perspective. I think this is range plays here. Higher term timeframes still have me generally on the defensive for the long term, but Bitcoin could still play out an upside move here. Maybe it even goes for like a slightly new high, but I do think that this market is on its last legs, if you want to call it that. Fleek Win says, hello, beautiful Krown. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Solana TA, please, sir. Yeah, we'll get to some shitcoin requests a little bit later. The real Satoshi on Twitter says Hal Finney's neighbor was named Satoshi Nakamoto. That is very interesting because I know a lot of people believe that Hal Finney is probably the progenitor of Bitcoin, or at least one of the main guys behind it. And I have no idea what's true in that sense, but a lot of people who, from what I understand, I've done a lot of research into it, believe that he is Satoshi, or at least there was probably like multiple people who actually created Bitcoin. Who knows, man? That's like it's like the immaculate conception, right? For it's Elsa, it's El Satoshi. Holy shit, it's actually you. Anyway, can you give me your private keys? Because you have like millions of Bitcoins or some shit. You're literally the richest person in the world, I think. Maybe not the richest. What's up, Caretaker? Good morning to you as well, man. Tinfoil flex. Yeah, we have some tinfoil action going on. Junior Riggs, good morning to you as well. And pre-crypto workout, all of the OGs are in the house right now as well. This is really, really good. This is my favorite thing about these slower times, is that you get to see the old faces. You get to see the old faces, because the new faces, you don't know what you're going to get. The old people, the people from, yesteryear, or at least before like 2020, these people are the real ones. These people are the real peoples who are who are maybe a little bit too interested in cryptocurrency. I'm one of these people as well, to be fair, but I do have to admit it is a weird hobby, I guess. Anyways, who does ChatGPT think is Satoshi? That's a good question. Let's see. Who do you think created Bitcoin? Or who do you think was Satoshi Nakamoto? Am I spelling that right? Satoshi. Satoshi. Yeah. Okay. I'm sounding it out like fucking hooked on phonics, like I'm a little retard or something. Sorry, that was in bad taste. I apologize. That one just slipped out, but you know what I mean. I still do that. I still do the sounding out. It's really, really, really useful. Hooked on phonics. If you were a '90s child, then you already know. Anyways, the leading suspects. Yep. Okay, so Hal Finney's in there, or at least I just saw. Wait, what the fuck? Am I actually going? Okay. Oh no, it literally says Hal Finney right here. Yeah, early cryptographer, first person to receive a Bitcoin transaction from Satoshi. So that's a little bit suspect, I suppose. He was literally working on reusable proof of work before Bitcoin. Okay, so he was working on the same issue. So yeah, could very well be him. He did die of ALS, which is, I believe, Lou Gehrig's disease, in 2014, and denied being Satoshi. But yeah, I would imagine he probably didn't. Whoever was Satoshi didn't want to be known as Satoshi. That's what seems very obvious to me. You also got Nick Szabo. I have seen this name somewhere before, but I don't have like a mental picture of him. He's a creator of BitGold, which was a direct precursor to Bitcoin, obsessed with cryptographic money well before 2008. Interesting. Kind of this guy could definitely be, but his denial was weirdly defensive. Yeah, that's always suspect, right? It's like, I'm not fucking gay. It's like you just shout that out at random. It's like, wait, I didn't ask. And then Adam Back, this name I don't think I've seen before. Inventor of Hashcash, which Bitcoin uses in mining algorithms. Mentioned in the Bitcoin white paper. Super active in the cyberpunk scene. Interesting. All right. What does chat think? My personal theory. Chat is embodied at this point. Satoshi Nakamoto was a small group of cyberpunks led by Hal Finney and Nick. I think that's probably most likely as well. Like it's a group of people, it's a hard problem. A lot of the time you need multiple minds to be working on something like this. The code was too well structured and the timing was too perfect. Post 2008 crash for just one guy. The social, economic, and cryptographic knowledge all bundled into one. That screams team. They likely chose the name Satoshi Nakamoto for its poetic meaning and to obscure any Western origin. Once Bitcoin hit escape velocity, also what kind of makes sense to me is using a Japanese name directly makes me think about the situation in Japan. And if you're not aware of what kind of went on in Japan since I think it was the 80s, is that they've been in this massive stagflation era. So it would make sense to me that for the Japanese, Bitcoin would be intensely valuable as well. I mean, of course, it's valuable for us in the Western portion of the world as well due to inflation. But that very unique stagflation case in Japan, that seems like a great use case for something like Bitcoin. But yeah, once Bitcoin hit escape velocity, they disappeared intentionally, knowing the project needed to be decentralized in spirit as well. I mean, shit, man, what if Hal Finney actually faked his death and he's just hanging out somewhere, rich as hell, got some sort of a new face, something like this. But yeah, anyways. Let's see. Let's go back into the charts here. Let's see what's going on in the chats as well. In the UK, the news was used to consult the UK populace, and why you cannot find that news article wait, what the fuck is this in reference to? Peckham Crypto. I must be reading this out of. Okay. He's talking about the Bitcoin white paper. Bitcoin white paper is required before you can introduce a green paper to the UK Parliament. What do you think happened in 2009? Yeah. Okay. All right. Relax, man. I'm waking up. Okay. It's okay. Jesus, man. All right. Thank you for the knowledge. Anyways, Adam Back is definitely Satoshi, says Filson. Okay. Interesting. I mean, at the end of the day, does it really matter who is it? Who cares? Elsa says, who cares? Well, I definitely would like to know just for the mystery of it. That's always fun. But yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter that much because whoever it was doesn't seem to have any interest in being public. So fair enough. Anyways. This is good teaching the history of Bitcoin. I mean, to be honest, man, I barely even know it myself. It's a beautiful and sad story. It is in a way. Like the lady who stole massive crypto and scattered. I thought you were going to reference the Razzle Queen. What was her name? The Razzle Con. Holy shit! You guys have to see this if you haven't already. This woman and her boyfriend stole billions and billions. I think from Finex, or at least I forget what exchange it was, but they stole a shit ton. Let me see if I can find this Razzle. Holy shit! It comes up first thing when I type in Razzle on oh my god on YouTube. Hold on. You guys have to see this. This is the face of the final video before this is such a sign of the times. She's going to prison for a very long time, and she's doing a fit check. All right, let's see it.
Hey Razzlers, what's up? RazzleCon here, and I'm about to go to prison. I'm going to be gone for just a little bit. I'll see you soon. I know you're going to miss me, I'll miss you, but I just wanted to say a few things while I'm gone. One, the Zero Fuck Sats are now available. My homie who made the brand is collaborating with me to release some special collaboration.
We live in a simulation, and it's confirmed. Swag. This is confirmation of the simulation.
The link is in my profile.
For
I'll
sure.
post more info about this. But
she's got diplomat pussy. She's creative. I'll give her that. Talking about prison, distant relation. Oh my god. This girl is a genius. She might not be an actual genius, but I think she might be actually. Ankle bracelet tips. Oh my god. Oh god. I can't believe this is a person, and I can't believe that this person is like this. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. She should have way more subscribers. That's one thing that's for sure. That is a travesty. She should definitely be over like 100,000. Wow, just wow. Also, probably Satoshi. That's the real Satoshi. I don't care what Peckham says over there. This is the real Satoshi. I don't care about your damn conspiracies going on. Anyways, Da Vinci J15 basically confirmed Bitcoin was created by Intel. I don't know if he actually knows, man. or at least I'd want to see his work or his reasoning for that. Same cell with SBF. Yeah, that would be great. But I think one of them would have to declare that they are a different gender, because she seems to be of woman origin and he seems to be of male origin. Although I'd say SBF is a lot more questionable than her, at least. She's the real Satoshi. You heard it here first. Diplomatic pussy, low mo, fair and unbiased. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. She's a great ambassador for the great nation of Retardistan. DJ 15 is such a sellout. I really don't know him that well, or certainly not well enough to say that. I've only met him actually, I think, once or twice. He's dressed. The first time I met him, he was dressed up as a pimp, which was pretty cool. but not very convincing. And I think last I saw, he married some some Russian girl or something like that. Anyways, good for him, man. Good for him. Getting into Bitcoin early. I mean, there's one thing that you definitely can't hate him for, and that is for shilling Bitcoin at literally $1. I mean, that is really, 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 really impressive. Someone had to do it, and I guess it was him. Anyways, I'll read through some of the comments here on Twitter as well. A lot of people think Hal Finney Hal Finney's neighbor is Satoshi. Hal Finney is cryo frozen. Okay, that is an interesting development in this. I had no idea that was true. So he's not actually dead. Okay. So that's actually, man, that would show some real foresight. Like he died in 2014, but he froze himself because he knows in the future they're going to have a solution for that for sure. I mean, they're just going to upload his consciousness into the cloud, and he becomes some sort of an AI robot or some shit like this, and he'll also be one of the richest people alive. Why doesn't Elsa call us Simpson virgins anymore? I don't know. You'd have to ask her. Why don't you say that anymore? Okay, she has no answer. I'm actually curious, before we get into the actual analysis of the day, what is the best Bitcoin wallet? What is the best, most secure Bitcoin wallet? I'm genuinely curious, because I'd like to get another one. I've been using Ledger for forever, but ever since reading into Ledger, I'm a lot more interested, or I'm a lot less interested in actually using them. I mean, technically they could have a backdoor into your wallet, which doesn't seem like a good idea to me. Maybe shouldn't even keep a wallet on me at all. In fact, that's probably the real answer. I think I think I'll do that. Anyways, Richard Hart is a scam, says Jonathan Boyd. I mean, I don't think Richard Hart is an actual scam, because he tells you exactly what he's doing. It's just you're a retard for thinking that that's going to benefit you. That's just my thoughts. I mean, and the evidence is on the chart. But he has not scammed. He's not a scammer because he's not deceiving people. Like, he's not deceiving people. That to me is what a scam is that it's like an intentional deception to make people think some way. And he doesn't do that. He tells you straight up, but then there's just people who knows, they think that they can capitalize on that information and make a shit ton of money. But he himself, like, I have no issue with him. He's obviously an evil genius or something like this. Trezor or Blockstream Jade is better than Ledger. Blockstream Jade. Okay, I haven't heard of this one. All right, I'm gonna read through some of these. Let's see. Bitbox. Okay. Oh, okay. Bitbox could be cool. Made by Swiss. We like Swiss. Swiss is good. Also, very, very strong privacy laws there, so that's probably a good thing. My other fear with Ledger. I mean, I'm probably just gonna give my crypto to a bank, honestly, anyways. But my other issue with Ledger is that it's domiciled in France, and France is, well, an issue because, what if the government came out and said, hey, we are going to require you to put a backdoor into, or we're going to require you to update your firmware for all of your Ledger devices so that we can KYC all the people in Europe. Could happen, I guess. I mean, wouldn't be unheard of. I mean, shit, like Canada also an issue as well. Anything in the EU basically is an issue. They certainly want to do that. They certainly want to make it so that there's no more private or unhosted wallets, like a wallet not attached to an actual name. Elsa says the EU is gay and retarded. Well, I didn't know that the EU likes other EUs, but I suppose that makes sense. Yeah, but Richard Hart raised 10 million for cancer for that makes it all okay. Lamo, yeah, yeah. I mean, he is very, 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 very smart, very clearly, and he knows how to present himself in a way that will make himself very appealing, and that would be one of it for sure. Anyways, Peckham seems very convinced that he knows who it is. So we'll just, I believe you. I'm convinced, sir. So that's enough. Anyways, the word you're looking for, Krown, is technocracy. Technology rules. I suppose. I mean, I think the EU is more of a bureaucracy, honestly. It's just the EU is what I have in my mind when they show the rise of Palpatine in Star Wars. Like, that's what I have in my mind. That's what Christina Lagarde looks like to me, for real. I mean, she looks like a fucking dying skeleton who's trying to take control of all your fucking funds. Elsa says no. That's Elizabeth Warren. But she doesn't have any real. I mean, she has some power, but not that much. She looks very dry. Yeah, I mean, she's both. She's not moist and very dry, both in the Pusile region and also her her general complexion, I suppose. With dystopia in that context, yeah, you could definitely say that. I was just joking about scam. Richard Hart is my dad. I'm not lying, I promise. Do you mean he is your dad or he isn't your dad? This is unclear to me. Kleptocracy, that would mean that they just steal, right? Yeah, I mean, the more research I do into taxes, no, not the more research I do into taxes, the more research I do into inflation, that seems to me to be kleptocracy. I mean, it seems to be stealing, because you have no say in the matter. You have no say in the matter. At least for taxes, you can vote for the president. You can vote for, so on and so forth, who create tax policy. So you have some say in that. But as far as inflation, I mean, comes down to the Fed, right? And the Fed is separate from that. So, oh, he is your dad. All right. Well, that's cool. I don't think Richard Hart's gay. I think he likes women.
He has my purse.
He does have your purse, so there is that, but maybe he just has good taste. Who knows? Anyways, forwards thinking, I suppose. Drier than cheese grater. Yeah, you could say that, man. Taxes killing Portugal. We can't afford to live with $2,000 a month. Yeah, that's crazy. And Portugal, I believe I also saw they're introducing taxes for crypto as well, because before they were tax free for crypto, they seem to have did that. They did that for a few years, and then they're like, shit, we want to tax this. Looks pretty good to me. Without armies, no one would pay taxes. I mean, without prisons, no one would pay taxes, I think. But yeah, man, it is under threat of violence. But when you look into taxes, it's a very interesting thing, especially from an American perspective, because it wasn't until 1913 where America, the U.S., introduced taxes, and that was leading up into World War I. They needed funding, of course. And at the beginning, it was very low, and it was also not for many people. It was for a very small subset of people. It was the top of the top earners. So I don't know if it was the top 10% or the top 1% of earners, but something like this. And the tax rate for those people was 7%. 7% right? So, and before that, there was no personal income taxes in America. So I don't know, man. Very, very strange. But of course, before World War II happened, America was not the world reserve currency, so maybe we didn't need taxes to support all of the spending and everything. Like, I can see the argument for it, I suppose. I'm not like totally against taxes, but I think that they could be a lot lower. Where would you advise me to move? Depends what you're looking for, man. 28%. Wow, they're going to do 28% capital gains tax for crypto. That's insane. In Portugal, what? That's fucking higher than their corporate tax rate. Jesus, man, that sucks. I don't know, man. I would, it depends on your age, depends on what you want. But general areas of interest that I think can be very, very good for a lot of people. Obviously, Thailand, very inexpensive there, and decent quality of life. Other than that, if you want to stay in Europe, it's going to be difficult because the cost of living is very, very high in Europe. All things considered, the cost of living in Europe is high, and the standard of living is in my opinion quite low compared to what you actually get. Like $1 million to buy a house in Finland is not the same as $1 million to buy a house in in some major city in America. Like these are completely different things. You get a lot less in Finland, I'll tell you that. Anyways, 45% capital gains in Australia. Holy fuck, that is wild. 45% capital, like, you basically get half of your money. Like that's just insane. That's just fucking insane. They just hate people making money. That's what this is all about. That's what it's all about. That's what communism's all about as well. They just hate people who have more than them, but they don't actually care about the people who have less than them. They just hate people who have more. They don't even hate the rich because they probably are rich compared to, many other people. 28% is crazy given that most tokens are down 70%. Well, I think you only pay taxes on your profits. You don't just pay taxes for sale for selling, but I might be, if I'm wrong about that, then that's extremely fucked up, but I would assume it's only on profits. Hua Huin, Thailand says beach life. Yeah, I've heard some good things about there. I've heard great things about, what's the other one? It starts with a P, not Pattaya, but the one where everyone goes. PP Islands, that actually is apparently a good place, but Phuket, yeah, Phuket, whatever the fuck. Yeah, it seems really, really cool. But thoughts on holding MicroStrategy instead of Bitcoin? I don't know. Let's look at the MicroStrategy chart really quick. Is it mimicking Bitcoin here? No, MicroStrategy looks a lot stronger to me. MicroStrategy, I would have no problem saying, hey, this looks like a very clear and obvious accumulation range. If anything, it would be making me, I guess, more bullish on Bitcoin, I suppose. But something like this, your range is between about 345 to the upside versus 232 to the downside. You just put in a slightly higher low right here. Still holding on to, most major moving averages as well. Yeah, all the way up to a daily, still above the 200 simple, whereas Bitcoin spot is below by a decent margin right now as well. So you got trend, you got moving averages, you probably even have momentum at this point, but I don't think it's going to break out from here. I think that this is an accumulation range. It's going to stay in here for a while, but staying in there is fine. It's good. Probably test the tops out of the range first. Kind of similar to what I think for Bitcoin as well. I think Bitcoin tries an upside move first. I don't think it gets follow through. I do think it continues to range, but yeah, this is objectively a better chart as it stands right now. Even the monthly is still above that red 5 EMA, which Bitcoin is below, or at least as of right now, and has been below for the past couple months, closing below there. So, I do look at MicroStrategy actually as a better chart, which kind of concerns me because I don't really understand MicroStrategy at this point. They've gotten too complicated in their strategy, I guess. So I don't invest in things that I don't really understand for the long term. But if I look at charts, I really like this chart. There's no doubt about that. Really, really like the chart. I do think that this one is is going to make new all-time highs this year compared to what it's already done. But yeah, when I don't understand something, it just makes me think that, it's just too complicated, I guess. There's some sort of point of failure there that I'm just not going to be aware of. So yeah, I avoid stuff like that, even though, again, I think that this is really, really much better chart than Bitcoin right now. Trader MP says, have you considered Norway, given you are closer in terms of tax / living, and I believe is not technically considered part of the EU? I think... I don't care about it being expensive. I care about it being safe, nice. It is cold. Yeah. Elsa's going to hate it because it's cold, but I would assume Norway is just like a nicer version of Finland. I would probably love it, especially in the summer. Elsa would probably love it in the summer as well. But never actually been there, man. Never actually been there. You've been there? Yes. Oh, okay. All right. Did you go to Oslo?
Yes, but I went in the winter.
Oh, okay. Yeah, of course. Went at the wrong time. Hua Hin is for retirees.
We did go to the fjords in summer.
All right, I need to read this. Griffitron 3000 says you pay $180 in MicroStrategy to own $100 in Bitcoin, even though the underlying company is unprofitable. Yeah, see, that to me doesn't sound too good. But I do like the chart. The chart looks good to me. So fair enough. Norway full of robots. I mean, that's just Scandinavia in general. I used to think Finnish people were like Autobots, or they sounded like Autobots from Transformers. But they don't like that when you tell them. Anyways, we'll do a quick Bitcoin analysis here. The honest truth is that very little has changed from yesterday to today. All we have is, the next daily closure and the weekly closure for CME. But I do want to go over some of the corollary markets, but we'll just do a very quick perusal of Bitcoin. Again, daily time frame right here. As long as Bitcoin is below that Tuesday high, I do look at that as an actionable pivot. If Bitcoin can even just trade above that, I would be looking for, I would look at this as a confirmed resolution of this current consolidation. Still looking somewhere around mid to low 90s, something like this. I don't think things are going to continue to new all-time highs from there. I do think, if Bitcoin got somewhere around here, that's a great place for it to pull back. And I still think that Bitcoin at some point is going to come down a little bit closer to the lows, maybe somewhere around $80,000, give or take a little bit from that number at some point as well. So the real question is which one happens first. I'm biased towards the upside happening first, but does it really matter to me? No, I'm not trading this right here. As far as the lower term timeframes go, we do have, I believe, a bullish pivot right here, coming off of yesterday's low, which is about $83,500. As long as Bitcoin's closing above there, technically short term, I kind of do favor that upside continuation confirmed again above that Tuesday high. If Bitcoin starts to lose that region, then I suppose I'd be looking for the downside target to be hit first, again, somewhere around $80,000. But these are very uninteresting setups, in my opinion. They're certainly not the easy ones that I like to take advantage of, when they do come around. And keep in mind that the daily stochastic momentum is also traveling up here while prices more or less it's still in a downtrend, to be fair. This is still lower lows and lower highs. So you're seeing this travel all the way up to the critical zone, which I like to refer to this as like spinning the wheels, but not getting anywhere. And if that starts to turn down, which it will below 82,700, then yeah, I guess I'd have to favor that downside target first. But just like I don't think Bitcoin's going to break out to the upside and make new all-time highs, even if it gets to like 95,000 bucks, I think it's still a range play. I don't think Bitcoin is going to make new lows below last week's low either. I think that Bitcoin is going to be range bound here for a while. Basically between like 75 to 95, and there's not really much doing other than that. Of course, the higher term timeframes still have me massively concerned. It's not that I'm massively concerned. It's just I think that it's very reasonable to think that this cycle is either mostly over or over. The reason why we went over in yesterday's video, but I like to bring up this monthly stochastic oscillator. You can see a very clear and obvious relationship that has been going on since the dawn of time for Bitcoin. Represented first by this green vertical bar, marking off that first major momentous move by the monthly stochastic oscillator into the critical zone and then crossing down. That has not been a cycle ending signal. It has been a corrective signal before new all-time highs, like you see right here, and right here, and actually even last year as well in 2014. And then it's a secondary cross to the downside coming out of that rejection of the bullish control zone, the critical bull zone, which typically indicates, hey, yeah, things are over. And you see that right here. And then of course we have seen it yet again for this cycle right here. And I personally will be very defensive against Bitcoin making any sort of real attempt towards new all-time highs as long as this is positioned to the downside. Also keep in mind that the bi-monthly time frame, which is closing at the end of this month, is potentially going to cross the downside. Now, it hasn't yet, obviously. We still got, another less than 2 weeks, about 12 days left until this month closes. But assuming Bitcoin is still below 91,000 bucks, Bitcoin will, the bi-monthly stochastic oscillator will cross the downside officially. And anytime that we've seen this cross the downside, regardless of positioning, it has marked highs, for the market, essentially the same highs as the red vertical bar there. But yeah, that again remains to be seen. Of course, I could easily see Bitcoin trying an upside move here to finish off this month. Does it maintain and close above 91? If it does, okay, that would keep a little bit of hopium alive for me. But I still kind of look at it as just that hopium. On top of that, I do want to again address that the monthly time frame. Regular bearish divergence here. You could argue that this first move has already played out. We've seen a move down to the not that one, but we've seen a move down close to the yellow 21. Can it go a little bit lower to officially test it? Yeah, but But that is also going to be combined with the bi-monthly, which is again closing at the end of this month. This one will have regular bearish divergence if Bitcoin does close below the prior low. That would be the January/February low here at $78,500. I do think that that's actually unlikely for this next closure. But the quarterly also is problematic because you get the same sort of potential regular bearish divergence of multiple drives here. This would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's like, I don't know how much I trust that, man. It has not confirmed yet, but it is certainly in the rear view mirror, in the front view mirror. And then, of course, if we go over here to the monthly jewel, I mean, we've seen this one actually fire off like a real sell signal here. And again, whenever it gets into the critical zone, I mean, these are end of cycle type things. So, I think that we're seeing the breakdown of the 4-year cycle, to be honest with you. And I think that we're going to get a consolidation basically sideways between, I don't know, like 60 and 95. For the next like let's say like 4 to 8 months, and then probably, a new cycle begins, but it's not going to be that same 4-year cycle anymore. Or at least that's my current take. Can I be wrong about this? Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that some people in the comments will be very, very ardently sure that they know that the 4-year cycle is definitely not over, and they will tell me with that with the force of 1,000 versions, but I don't fucking care, man. Look, I'm just going off of the same signals that made me bullish the whole way up on the macro scale here since late 2022 to early 2023. So yeah. Anyways, on top of that, we should go check out some of the corollaries for Bitcoin. Of course, I would like to look at tether dominance here. Tether dominance, again, does have a short-term bullish bias as long as it's above the price action pivot of about 537. That's not like super, super convincing to me. Yes, there would be some potential for hidden bullish divergence here as well. I would not call a continuation move to new highs on this one. I do think it can very easily pop back up to 580. Obviously, if you see that, you're going to see Bitcoin probably closer to 80,000. But like I said, I don't think it's going to continue from there. Still got a potential for another local high here, I suppose, right at the white 200 simple on the weekly. Also a lower high compared to the last major high from September of last year. So that'd be the bullish point of view here. But again, when I look at the monthly stochastic oscillator for the tether dominance chart, it's basically the inverse, of course, of Bitcoin, and it had bullish divergence here and is continuing up, getting out of the bearish control zone for the first time in like a very, very long time. Since December of 2023, actually. So, this is, yeah, I do kind of have to favor overall upside more long term, but can it pull back first and Bitcoin gives another try towards the upside? Yeah. It's just, I don't think it's going to be making new lows or anything like this. So, I think at best, let's say best case scenario, at least in my opinion, as of right now, if this thing came all the way back down, to 4.25 or so, maybe Bitcoin gets up to like 120 at that point, maybe 130, 135, something like this. But I think that's still kind of front running most people's targets for this cycle. But if the cycle is going to continue, that's kind of where I'd be looking for it again to find, the next major high here. Anyways, on top of that, we could go check out traditional markets. They closed the week out yesterday. So we do have the weekly close for this. It is officially a flaccid dildo. and while I do think, again, similar to Bitcoin, I really don't see this one going below last week's low without a deeper, without a greater bounce. In the short term, does it try a little bit lower, closer to that low, maybe around 18,000 even, or just below 18,000? Definitely possible. We're about to see daily stochastic momentum turn down here as well, as long as this one's below 18,500, which it did close below to close out the weekly. Weekly stochastic momentum also crossing to the upside here. So it's like, again, I don't think it's going to be making new lows. I do think it's going to be at least like a decent bounce, but this thing could bounce up all the way to fucking 20,500 or even $21,000, and that'd be your traditional bull trap area, which would be rather concerning. But yeah, like I said, there's not too much new here for Bitcoin. I think that we're in a boring period. I think it's going to continue to be a boring period. I think even when Bitcoin does break out of this short-term consolidation here between $86,500 and $83,000, I think that you're going to get about a $5,000 move either which way, but no continuation on top of that. I think this thing is range bound for a while. at best, and of course at worst. Well, it can get much worse, I suppose. What about M2 liquidity? Don't really care about it, to be honest with you, and I'll explain why. So this has been massively popularized by Raoul Pal, and I actually really like listening to him. So like, if he sees this for whatever reason, look, I'm not talking shit about you or anything like this, but look, there's been this meme going around this market saying something along the lines of, guys, I found the blueprint for the market. M2 global liquidity is leading Bitcoin price with a 10-year lag, or sorry, not 10-year, but a 10-week advance. So Bitcoin price lags by 10 weeks. When I try to verify this myself, I have not found that to be true. So first things first, let's go back to the last cycle high. The last cycle high happened on this red vertical bar right here. Global liquidity continued up, making new all-time highs for the next how long? For the next 142 days. If it really is a 10-week lag, well, that would be 70 days. So that's literally twice that amount, meaning that you saw new all-time highs on global liquidity for nearly half a year while price was straight fucking down. If we go back to the cycle high before that, do we see the same thing? Well, let's go over here. Again, Bitcoin finding its high for this 2017 cycle right here, okay? How much longer did global liquidity make new all-time highs for after Bitcoin had topped out? Well, this is 120 days. Okay, maybe it's more like a 20-week lag. No, I don't think so, to be honest. We can go back to the next cycle over here. The 2013-2014 cycle, okay, tops out here. All right, this thing just makes new highs for how long? I mean, I can already see that this is going to be a while. This one makes new highs for 213 days. So I don't know how much, or actually no, that's 30 weeks. So again, not a 10-week lag, 30 weeks in this case. And then if we go to this one, I mean, again, this one here, like it continues up. This is a fucking 60 or 70% drop off, and it just continues up. Like, I don't think it really matters as much as people are giving it credit for. People are more likely to just parrot something that they like that they heard because it supports, their bags or something like this. And in this case, obviously, global liquidity has been making new all-time highs since Bitcoin put in its high in mid-January, so that was right here. Let's see, is it 10 weeks out now? I mean, does it even matter if it's 10 weeks out? It doesn't, because, well, it's actually 12 weeks out now? 86 days. Yeah, 12 weeks out. 12 weeks out, yeah. And it's just continuing to make new all-time highs here. I don't think it matters as much as people give it credit for. I really don't. I'm just going off of the data here. Like, I'm not making a judgment about any person. I'm not saying if you believe this that you're stupid or anything like this. I'm just saying when I try to recreate this for myself and see it with my own eyes, I don't see it. I don't see the same thing. In fact, I see barely any of a relationship, and for the relationship that there is, it seems to be much longer, like more than double than purported. Krown, I think you were going the wrong direction with the lag. No, because it works both ways, and it's supposed to be the global liquidity leads Bitcoin. So no, the lag just it's not even there, man. It's not even there. Like, that's what I'm saying. The lag isn't even there. It just fucking goes up. Like, global liquidity just goes up. Damn, Chad is asleep, says Zhao. Yeah, man, it is what it is. It's a slow day. Do you ever use trading bots such as the ones from Pionex? I don't use the shitty ass ones that are on exchange. I mean, these are just fucking garbage grid bots that are literally lobotomized. They just buy at a certain level and sell at a certain level without any real strategy behind it. We obviously have our own bots with the Quant Prime service. So I have several bots, or I really only run one or two, but I work on several different strategies at a time. And yeah, that I definitely do use, but I would really avoid using the exchange ones, because more often than not, just about in every instance that I've seen, it's like a grid bot. Bless you, sir. But grid bots, like, they can be great if things are ranging, but you're gonna get run the fuck over when they stop ranging, and they're very imprecise in my opinion. If it actually made money, I mean, everyone would be using it, right? Anyways, Mark Elliott says it's 108 days, and the guy who has been looking at it lately is Colin Talks Crypto on YouTube. It's actually not 108 days. It's literally 120. We just went through it. Like I just showed you. Look, you can believe whatever the hell you want to believe, man, but those numbers are what they are. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Turkish, the firefighter, good morning to you, man. Good to see you around as well. The Pimpin' Grandpa says, please help. I'm pregorant with Armenian baby. He has smoked cigarette in my vagine. All right, let's see what chats we got going on here. I see we got Steven Schickman as always. He's looking at Doggy coin. Where's my Doggy coin? It's right here. Same shit as Bitcoin, right? Actually, sorry, this is not the chart I want to be on. Let's go to Bitcoin chart here, and let's go to Doggy coin here. Okay. Again, man, nothing's really changed here in my opinion. I think you're going to bounce out of this area. Do you retest the 200 simple first at 14 cents before trying that big bounce? Maybe. I don't have strong opinions on the short term, just like I don't really on Bitcoin as well. My strong opinion is on no new lows without a major bounce. I think that this thing probably bounces above 20 cents, maybe closer to a quarter. And then if you're going to get a lower high there, okay, so be it, and come back down. But, next big move should be to the upside, even if it does retest close to the current lows, which I don't have a strong opinion on whether it does or does not. But yeah, as far as anything else goes with the monthly, as you asked for, long term, I'd say the same thing as Bitcoin, right? You got bearish divergence on the monthly stochastic oscillator. It's heading down as long as this thing's below 39 cents. Like, just not wise to be bullish while that condition is in that direction. You're fighting against it. Anyways, Do Kwon says from jail, Popcat Daily Weekly. Sure, man. Popcat. I remember this one was popular. It seems like just yesterday, but not so much anymore. Maybe. Let's see. Maybe it is. Let's check out the chart. There's got to be a longer running chart than this. I'm sure of it, right? Maybe not. All right. Same thing on Solana and same thing on Coinbase. It's had a pretty decent bounce here. Similar to Bitcoin, I think it could retrace down to like 17 or 18 cents, but I don't think you're going lower. I do think you're going to try a bigger bounce at some point, whether it's from where it's at right now, whether it comes lower first. If I'm drawing out the LARP lines, either this or like this, something like this. I do think that you get a bigger bounce first. I'm guessing that there's probably a longer history on this one because I imagine like this is one massive downtrend here and it's just finding a nice short-term bottom. But without that, I can't really generate areas of interest to the upside. Tentatively, I'd say maybe somewhere around like 30 to 35 cents. But, I'm kind of flying blind here. And if I had to say, I guess short term, I'd kind of be looking or favoring a little bit of short term downside. But, if it spikes down, that's just going to be a higher low here. I really don't think that it's going lower than that April low before trying the bigger bounce. Anyways, we have Essential. He says, please, UEC, uranium energy. Okay, so this is a real commodity. Or no, it's actually a stock. Pretty good bounce in my opinion. I think that this one bounces up more. You still got lower highs, but I do think that it bounces up maybe closer to like 535 to 545 region, maybe just 5.5, something like this. I think that this might actually even be a low as well, to be honest with you. Or at least you're going to get like a big monthly bounce here, something like this over the next coming months. And then, maybe it finds like a local high here. And then if it comes back down, sets in a higher low, that'd be bullish, obviously. But, that's really, really far away. This is a monthly chart after all. So this is, we're probably thinking like a year out almost at this point. But, if I'm just focusing on this, yeah, I think next move is to the upside. I think you'll get somewhere around here, honestly. Overall, the trend is your friend and higher term time frames still remain in their uptrend. So I'm going to favor that. Even the daily, I think that this one legs up a little bit more here and then probably finds a daily local high at around, let's just call it 540, pulls back from there, sets in a higher low somewhere above $4.50, and then tries again to the upside, playing out that monthly move that I was just looking at. But again, this can take a long fucking time. That's a monthly time frame. And that's that is full on crystal ball as well. I'm glad that we're on the same page there. Yeah, it is a bit of crystal ball. I don't, of course this is very far away, so who knows, but if I had to call it, that would definitely be it. I'm curious what like a 6-month chart looks like. Not great, but also not terrible. Yeah. What about a yearly? Just out of curiosity. Is there anything obvious here is what I'm looking for. Also not obvious to me either. Yeah. I'd give this bounce a chance. If the bounce can really get back above like 7.25, I'd say, okay, you got your next major low in place, and still there's probably another pullback into a higher low, but that's a higher low I'd be very interested in jumping on, because you're probably set up to continue the overall trend to the upside. Something like this, man. Yeah, long-term for show. I agree, sir. I agree. Mr. Cripps on Twitter says, getting Powell out and rate cuts seem our only savior. Lord, this is tiring. I know a lot of people are holding on to this hopium with cutting rates and QE and all this stuff. But remember, like, there's always the next thing, a couple weeks ago, or maybe it wasn't even that long. It feels like it was long ago, but maybe it wasn't that long. But about a couple weeks ago, all of the buzz was tariffs. Tariffs are going to destroy everything. Tariffs are going to kill everything. And the market goes down, 25%. Traditional markets, obviously Bitcoin goes down a little bit more. And then the next day comes around and there's the next thing. Oh, we're having a 90-day pause, and actually we're not going to do the tariffs on this sector and that sector and blah, 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 blah. And then things bounce up, 10 to 15%. And then the next thing happens. The next thing was one of the people in the administration signals that, no, we actually are going to be introducing these tariffs in this way. We're just going to put it off a little bit longer, somewhere around here. And it will apply to these countries. And yeah, no one's getting off, blah, blah, blah. And then things come down again. Like, there's always the next thing when you go off of the news or these sort of events. So it's like, if the Fed really started to cut rates and do QE, doing QE is very, very far away, but cutting rates, could happen, I guess, sooner, I suppose. That one I really don't know, but I would just look for the next thing, man. I just look for the next thing. Historically, if we're cutting rates, it's likely because something not so great is on the horizon. Yeah, that is generally what has happened in the past. When rate starts to go down, it's a response to try to help, stabilize prices. It's not because, oh, things are great and let's just go back to fucking rainbow land. It's usually because something terrible is happening in the economy or in the world. So it's difficult, man. Garrett says, my baby's named in you and Elsa's honor, Erica El Satoshi Krown. She loves the tendies. Fuck yeah, man. Get her started nice and young. I love it, man. I love it. Pizza says, morning, sir. Could you please take a look at XRP? Sure. XRP. Where do I have it on my list? It's right here, 206.5. It hit our downside target. I was saying around $1.50. Got down very close there. Similar to, it is in a stronger position than Bitcoin. It's still above the 200 simple, to be fair, but do I think that XRP is going to hold it up if everything doesn't? Generally, I have the same thing to say about Bitcoin here, to be honest with you, man. I do think you could play at a bit of a pullback, maybe a little bit below $2 again. Let's call it somewhere around 190, give or take a few cents from that number. But I don't think you're going to be going lower than last week's low without a bigger and deeper bounce first. I think that this thing bounces at some point to like $2.50. The monthly, for what it's worth, is still above all major moving averages. Almost everything in crypto is not. So it does have relative strength. Quarterly even just bounced off of the 5 exponential as well. So that's, not the worst sign. Like I said, if it has a downside move, I'm looking somewhere around here. Let's just call it 190, give or take. But I don't think you're going lower than there. I think that you do bounce up higher before anything else. Let's call it $2.50. If it is going to be bearish, you'd be expecting a rejection at $2.50 and then coming back down below $2. It would kind of confirm that this thing is going to be entering into the long-term downtrend of death and despair. But for now, it actually does have one of the more comparatively good charts. It's just, it's hard to untether yourself from what the general market is doing. But yeah, and again, this is not a comment on like Ripple's value or use case or anything like this. I know that there's a lot of questions about that, but hey, just as a pure chart, seems to be one of the better ones. Oliver K says, hello, sir. Can you look at Fartcoin, please? Sure, man. So up until yesterday, Fartcoin was the best looking chart, or one of the best looking charts in the short term, but it finally has flipped around here. We can see that the bullish bias is now turning into a bearish bias with the pivot at the high of Wednesday. So as long as Fartcoin's below there, I look for this correction to carry on further down and to the right, somewhere around 69, 70 cents or so, which is not too far away from where it's currently at right now. That's just the daily 21 EMA. Curious to see if we have any sort of divergences here. Just so that'd also make talking about a target a little bit easier. Yeah, we do. Caretaker's RSI declaring bearish divergence right there. Also losing the bullish control zone. So yeah, I do think that this one is entering into a little bit of a deeper corrective period. Even my Krown oscillator right here is turning down pretty heavily. So last time it did that, it led into a pretty prolonged consolidation. So, I think that you find a low somewhere between like 69 cents, great number, and like mid 60s, something like this. You probably try for a bounce there. But looking at the higher term timeframes, do I think it's reasonable to say that this thing's probably topped out for a very long time? It's actually pretty hard for me, to be honest. If I had to call it, I actually do think so, but I don't feel too confident about it. There's just not much to be going off of on the higher term timeframes. But as far as the lower term timeframes go, or at least the daily, yeah, I do think that you had a little bit lower before trying for a bounce. Again, let's call it like mid to upper 60s. So you're almost there now. And on the very short term timeframes, like the hourly, where does the bearish bias remain? Yeah, above, as long as it's below 91 cents. So not going to be super helpful now, obviously, but on the way back up, that's the area to beat, obviously. Anyways, FN dollars says, hey Krown, I'm new here. What are the, well, welcome, sir. What are the main indicators you use for trading? I'm actually trading options. Do you have any recommendations? Okay. I'm glad that you specifically mentioned that you're trading options because, I love these indicators that we're using right here, but if you're trading options, the best thing in my opinion that we have and that you can also try for free is the HPDR, which actually just comes a part of the full Caretaker's indicator suite. But this is really, really useful because you can get probabilistic ranges, meaning that it helps with options trading because, well, you can actually have probabilities for which strike is likely to be met or how unlikely it is to be met. So you can position around that. So for example, here, we can see that the 38.2 level surrounding the daily range is between about 88,000 to the upside versus 81,500 bucks to the downside. If I was trading weekly options, I'd probably be using a time frame like this, and I would be interested in at this point selling the straddle, or sorry, not the straddle, but the strangle from the like 88,000 strike calls and the 81,000 strike puts, something like this. It is just daily after all, so don't want to get like too far out there. So I think weeklies would be okay in that sense. But yeah, this would be the one. And then of course, it also comes with the HPDR cones, which give you like forwards projections as far as probabilities go, which is super, super useful for options. Not as useful if you're not using options, so there is that. But it does look really, really cool. But yeah, that comes a part of Caretaker's or the CT indicator suite on the Teachable. And like I said, you can try it out for free for 30 days. Just use the code trial in all capitals, and you'll see for yourself, if it's relevant to you or not. But if you're trading options, yeah, this is the one. This is definitely the one that I would be suggesting. You'll have the most use out of that. But of course, I love a lot of the more common tools as well. But that one is certainly a little bit more advanced. Of course, you're trading options, so I assume you're also a little bit more advanced yourself. Anyways, let's see. Let's read through a few of these. Harsh Rana says, PP, please. PP, please. Let's look at PP. Actually, I did not. No. TRX. All right. Tron. Tron also was one of the better looking ones as of recent, but as usual, it has to follow everything else, right? Anyways, Tron. I do look at this as just one massive range, one massive accumulation range here. That being between about 27 cents to the upside versus, okay, this is not that far down, at least for this time frame, versus about 21 cents to the downside. You just kind of hit the top side of that range. So I do think you come back down in the short term, maybe closer to like 22, 23 cents. But that's not doing anything for or against Tron. As long as it holds this range, technically should have a bullish bias. You know, it certainly does look like a different chart than almost everything else in cryptocurrency land, especially of the high market cap. So it does make me hesitant to like... It does make me hesitant to say, hey, this one's just going to blindly be bearish, but I do think you're going to be holding this range for a while. And if I had to say, I would be biased towards an upside resolution. That would be confirmed above about 27 cents. At that point, this thing should gun for, 31, 32 cents at least, maybe just, continues on with the long-term trend. But the problem is that everything in this market almost always moves together. So if the rest of the market comes down, I'll be looking for this thing to come back down to 22-ish, somewhere around there. Michal Engel says, if you are white and non-Muslim, come to Poland, safest country in the EU. Well, that's one way to say it, I guess. I'm just reading the comments, YouTube. Don't fucking hate me. All right, let's see. Effin Dollar says, thank you, Krown. I've noticed Farhan, Alex, and Alejandro use the HPDR. You may know those guys. Yeah, they're a part of they have been a part of our community. I understand that they kind of like splintered off and they started their own thing. That's cool. I'm very happy for that. It's cool to see, honestly. It's like, they start here and then they come into their own and then they go do their own thing. Fucking awesome, man. Hell yeah. Anyways, Mike Mad says, how are you currently positioned? Mostly stable if you want to share. Okay, so to understand my answer to this question, you have to understand that I do not trade discretionarily anymore. So if you're looking for are you long or short? I'm not either, man. My bots, however, will trade whenever their conditions are met, and they're usually focused on more sort of scalping style of trading. Yes, I have one that is a trend trading thing as well, but as of right now, the conditions that are required to make them trade are not present, so they don't take a trade. But I don't know. Let's see what the quantum wave bands are doing, because a lot of people are interested in this, and it's kind of a decent insight into how my own ones look like. But let's see what the hour is looking like. I think the last trade was a couple days ago, or it was yesterday. It was yesterday. That one closed positively. Nice. Haven't done anything since. I wouldn't really be expecting too much here. I mean, with things so fucking boring and sideways. But yeah, again, you can try this out for free for 30 days. Same code, same deal, same thing. Grandpa says plenty of work in Poland because they're all over here. What?
Did you do Nifty?
No, I haven't done Nifty. Let's do Nifty. Nifty. The Nifty 50. Whoops. The Nifty 509. Hey, that's not right. Why? Okay, well, whatever. There we go. Nifty 50 here. Let's go over to a daily. Hourly, I'd probably be looking for a pullback. Short term probably pulls back just by the virtue of retesting this prior high here. But sorry, I'm on my fucking quantum wave bands. Let's go to a different chart. Nifty. So this is the major Indian index. Okay. It's testing the same highs that you got from early February and then again in late March. So, short term probably is a very short term pullback here. I don't know if that's relevant to you or not because you didn't include timeframes, but overall, this thing looks to me like it wants to reverse to the upside. It's had a nice downtrend here since September of 2024. I think that you're actually reversing the trend right here. In fact, the price action pivots indicator has shown that, or is suggesting that it is in the process of reversing right now. Technically, if you want to be super, super conservative about it, you'd be waiting for a closure above that late March high of 23,869. I think that you will close above there, relatively soon, but, very, very short term probably plays out a bit of a pullback first. If it does end up pulling back a little bit more, I'd just be on higher low watch. I really don't think it goes much lower than even this. If it does at all, I would actually think that it, probably just comes here and then actually tries for the reversal. Then you're probably looking at what I would say anywhere between 24,300 to 25,000, something like that. Cool. Mo Sanchez says, would TradingView's bare minimum essential plan be enough to plug in your quant bot? Okay, I have to remind myself,
Essential is up to 5.
Oh, okay, yeah. Essential could work. We suggest using Pro because Pro gives you actually like more prolonged backtesting data. I don't know if that's relevant to you or not. I don't know how. Wait, what? Side note: this has to be an all-time low for live viewers. It is what it is, man. It's it's a quiet day. There ain't much going on. Can't really blame people for not being interested in crypto. During this time, right? Like it's basically been sideways as fuck for the last 7 days now, and even before that. I mean, this is just not interesting price action to the average viewer. But yeah, essential I guess could work. Quantum wave bands, it'll be fine with if you're using the Quant Prime. Well, I guess 5 would be okay as well, but I would really suggest Pro or more. I use Premium for TradingView. So yeah. Anyways, I'll read some more of these comments over here. Hype chart, please. We can look at, it's also a holiday. And exactly, man. So regular market's not even trading today. Hype, we can look at Hype really quick. This one's always very popular, actually. Actually, this one is in the process of reversing its trend as well. I don't know if I'd necessarily call this a higher low confirmed just yet. It doesn't look super strong to me, but I do think that this one trades higher from here. So actually, I guess I do agree with it. Just trust the price action pivots, man. Anyways, looking at this, whether it pulls back from here or not, if it does and I'm wrong and it pulls back more, I'd be looking at $14. I don't think it's going lower than that. I do think, just like most other things, you're going to be bouncing higher before any other potential move. I think that this one could easily bounce up. I mean, $18.50, but realistically, I think that this one will actually gun for a little over $20 on the bounce. The real question to me is, does it pull back here first and then play with that move, or does it just go from here? I'm more inclined to say, I am more inclined to say that it does pull back here first. I mean, that would just look a lot more nice to me. It would be a bit of a inverted head and shoulders too if it did something like this. This is kind of what I'd be looking for. I think that price action pivot actually gets destroyed, but we'll see. I mean, what?
Did you do ICP?
No, I did not do ICP. All right, we'll do ICP now. I know, but they're just a bunch of shit coins. Like, they're all doing the same thing anyways. ICP. Elsa, stop yelling at me. Stop giving me shit. Anyways, ICP here. Definitely on the weaker side, man. Definitely on the weaker side. Like, this is not the fucking one to be in, dude. I'm sorry to put it that bluntly. Like, this is fucking garbage as far as charts goes. It's fucking garbage. Do I think it can bounce with the rest of the market? It's going to require the rest of the market to bounce. It will not bounce on its own. That's the problem with garbage like this. But can it bounce up, when things do get going, maybe around like $6.50, $7? Sure. That's assuming that it even gets a bounce. But long term, this one's heading lower. It's heading back to the 2023 lows. I can almost assure you of that. Probably even new lows from there. Look, even the fucking quarterly doesn't know what an uptrend is. Like, this is absolute fucking garbage. If it bounces up to like $7.50, that's a gift from God. That's a gift from God, in my opinion. And I'm only suggesting that this one's probably going to bounce up first because I think the rest of the market's going to bounce up, not because of this, this thing on its own. If anything, this thing just still looks bearish to me. It's just fucking ugly, man. Really fucking ugly. Anyways, let's see what else we got. Elsa, what do you have? What do you have here now? Scotty Voy sells algo round mid to long term. Okay, algo round. Wait, I don't need to even do that, do I? All right, let's try this. And okay, had a really nice move here. Oh, that was at the end of 2024. So yeah, we have another prior cycle shitcoin. Doesn't get anywhere near its prior all-time highs. This is what the real chart looks like. Hate it, man. But do I think it's going to bounce with the rest of the market? Sure. But just like the other one, if this thing gets up to like a quarter or 26 cents, I'd look at that as a gift from God. Long term, the trend is setting in here. And, you know, the only upside moves that I ever really see for something like this is shit like you saw here in November, where it's just a one up move and then it just bleeds out and then continues on with a long-term trend, which is to the downside in this case. Yeah, but can it bounce up more here in the short term? Sure. It's just, I don't think it reverses any trend or does anything meaningful regarding trend. Definitely don't think it gets above 30 cents on a bounce, but, you know, maybe somewhere around a quarter. Yeah. Cool. Let's see. EBH says Krown. We literally just looked at that one actually. I don't know if you really must that well, I'd say the same thing, man. I think short term tries a little bit more of a downside move, but it's not. I don't think that this thing's making new lows below the April lows. I think maybe come down to like 22, 23 cents and then try for a bounce, but play out this range sideways for a while longer. Technically, this is one of the better charts in cryptocurrency land and should have a bullish bias as long as it's above 21 cents. But I think that you can trade sideways in this range between, you know, 27 and 21 for a long time, you know, a very long time. Moi says, Moi, Giusto Champeriliani, RLC. Wait, what the fuck? What does that mean? Cheeseburger. Okay. Elsa's mad because I said that she's yelling at me, but we all know that she's not actually yelling. Anyways, RLC, this one sounds really familiar, actually. When is this one from? Holy shit, this is a 2017 shitcoin. This is a 2017 shitcoin. Wow. To be fair, from cycle to cycle, at least it holds higher lows. So there is that. There is at least that. Just like most things in this market, I think you're going to bounce here. Weekly stochastic momentum has bullish divergence and is freshly turning up from a really, really low level. As long as it holds above 107, you know, I think your next move is a bounce. Daily time frame, does it bounce up to like 1.25-ish region? Yeah, I think that happens. I don't know, maybe this month, maybe next, something like this. But yeah, I'm looking for some obvious here. Monthly. Okay, while I do think that it bounces, like I'm not a big fan of the monthly look. I'm not a big fan of the higher term timeframes here. Yeah, when I look at the quarterly, I do think it could very easily bounce up to like $1.50, somewhere around there. But that's what I'd be looking for on another rejection mound. Let's see, we have Mo Sanchez. He says dollar versus Canadian dollar. All right, USD CAD. Go to this one and. Definitely there's a much more long running. I think we need to look at CAD USD rather than USD CAD. Yeah, that's the way to look at it. Yeah. Okay. Need way more history on this one. You know, we looked at this one, I remember like a month or two ago, and I said, hey, I don't think that this one's going to be closing below your March 2020 lows or this low here from January 2016. It did trade below there, but did not close below there. And now having a pretty decent bounce. I think that this bounce in the short term will pull back a little bit here. I mean, it kind of already has, but as long as it's above 71.5 cents, you know, I think that the bounce has more to go. So, you know, short-term pullback does not mean reversal here. Generally, I think that this one's going to travel up a lot more, you know, somewhere around 74, maybe even 75 cents, something like this. And that's the next like long-term area where I'd be kind of concerned about this. But you're not even actually on the weekly. I'm sorry. You're looking at a 4 hour and a daily. 4 hour time frame, short-term back down to like 72, still another higher low. You know, you're in a short-term consolidation right here. Resolved above yesterday's high, basically, or this morning's high, actually, 72.31, something like this. You know, above there, I think you get that next extension of the bounce. You know, it's going to take some time to play out, obviously. I was looking at a weekly and a monthly for that, but, you know, I do think that you will bounce up closer to like 74.5 to 75 cents, let's say, and then come back to it after that. But again, that's going to take a long fucking time. This is a quarterly chart here. All right, we'll do a few more over here on the YouTubes. Tim81 says, thanks, sir. Cardano? Sure, man. Sure, Cardano. Yeah, I did. Cardano here. Yeah, this one, see, this is the thing. Like, even if the altcoins are looking a little bit stronger than the rest, they almost always come back into normality, and this one's coming back as well. You know, I think you might spike a little bit lower first, like 58 cents, not lower than last week's low, but, you know, somewhere around here, like 58 cents. And then I still think that you bounce out of this region to the upside, but I think that this one gets stopped somewhere around mid to low 70 cents. And then you got a lower high. And that's like the real problem here. But looks kind of similar to Tron in the more recent term, I suppose, except Tron is still actually stronger than this. Where would I call this one an actual breakdown? It would not be where that green line is. It would actually have to be where the the 5-day pivot is, which is just under 52 cents. Below there, I think that this thing just gets absolutely crushed again. But, as long as it's above there, I suppose you still have hopium for a decent bounce first. I think that this thing could easily bounce up, like I said, to somewhere around 75 cents. But that is where your 200 simple is right now. So, do be aware of that because it's extremely likely to be a pullback around there. Maybe even a reversal if it is actually bearish. We'll go with Tobias. He says banana USDT, the banana zone. I would like to also be in the banana zone as well. Unfortunately, it's just one massive banana in your Angus. Anyways, banana, just terrible, man. Just god-awful charts. Bad. Is it ready for a bounce here, though? Short term, probably try 16.5 cents, something like this. If you're on a weekly, which is what you requested, I don't know. Are you more likely to bounce here or more likely to continue to the downside? I think you're more likely to bounce here. I do think you're more likely to bounce here, maybe up to like 25-ish, something like that. I think at least you'll get like in the very, very short term, 16.5. Then you got 19.5 / what was it? 25? Was it 25? Yeah, 25. Be a big area of interest. But again, just, looks to me like sitting into the long-term death spiral chart. Like these are not good. But can it bounce more here in the short term? Sure. What would I be using as a pivot in the short term? I'd be using this low here at $14.80. As long as you're above there, bounce is certainly more likely. Below there, retest of Wednesday's low and probably just lower after that. Yeah, man. All right. Noah Reason says, hooked on phonics worked for me on no short term. Sure, man. It did work for me as well. I'm pretty sure I used it as a young lad. Let's see. Okay, short term. I'm gonna go down to like a 4-hour time frame for this. Everything is so fucking sideways in the short term that it just does not. There's like no super obvious signals here. The only obvious signal that I have is that, okay, you have a pivot here at 80 cents. That was Wednesday's low. As long as you're above 80 cents, technically should be looking for a greater bounce, maybe back up to like 90 to 93 region. That is where all of the rallies have been arrested for the last couple weeks. All major moving averages switching into a bearish posturing here. Does make me think that if it does get up to like 90-ish, it probably gets rejected. At least it still is a long-term uptrend, at least for now. Weekly's going to still have, or monthly's still going to have higher highs and higher lows. But again, I really think that something like this is topped out for a long time. I think best case scenario to the upside, it'll get somewhere around $1. But I think long-term, this thing is setting into its trend. But yeah, short-term, does it bounce? Let's just say short-term probably bounces around $1. Maybe gets up to like 1.25 if it's lucky. Okay, not short term. I mean, that's going to be much further away. But we are seeing, stochastic momentum turn up. Same thing on the weekly as the 5-day. So it's like short term continues on with the bounce, I suspect. $1 would be the next major area of interest. Then you got 1.25. But I don't think you're going to be like, moving back to prior all-time highs and making new all-time highs. I do think that this thing is more likely to come back down towards these lows and probably make new lows. Anyways, Alex says Spectre versus Wrapped Ethereum. Okay, whoops, I didn't spell that right. Versus WETH. Okay. Jesus, man. Well, bullish, actually. It does have a nice weekly uptrend. In fact, I'd be looking at it as likely to try for a low somewhere around here. It's kind of already gotten there. In this pocket right here is what I'd be looking for on a low. If it comes lower, then your obvious area is going to be alongside this region, which is not 7275. That is where you've been finding all your lows for the last couple months here since January. So, I guess I would like that area if it does get down around there. But if anything is looking like it wants to try an upside move, it'd be this thing. Now, when I go to the weekly, I do recognize that it is in a consolidation pattern, but this is a bullish consolidation. So if it does come closer to this low again, I'll just be looking at that as a buying opportunity. I don't think it will get all the way down to the bottom end of this. I think it might at most get down to that red circle and then have another bounce up and, continue on with the sideways and then break out, later on. It's going to take some time, man. It's going to take some time, I think. Monkey says, please look at BC game token. BC. I'm just going to type it in. I don't think it's on TradingView, man. Or at least I don't have a clear read of which one you mean. Hey, what's up, Danny Khalifa? Yeah, we can look at Ethereum on the 4 hour. You're saying it looks like a consolidation. Probably does, because Bitcoin's also consolidating on the lower term timeframes. That's for sure. Yeah, I'd agree. 4 hour time frame is a consolidation here. If we're doing just the 4 hour time frame, we'd be looking at range high, range low coming in here. It's trying to put in a bit of an uptrend. I think it's weak as usual. If it does have another move to the upside, I'd be looking for 1680. But I know that that's not too helpful here. But here's what I can say. I know you didn't ask about the higher term timeframes, but I don't think you're going below last week's low without a bigger bounce first. So if it does pull back and it does get somewhere around here, I'd be looking at that as an opportunity, because I do think at some point you're going to get, a pretty decent bounce. Like, okay, maybe not that high, but somewhere above 2,000, something like this. Something like that. If you're on the 4 hour time frame, I mean, it's so fucking sideways. I don't trust indicators in this stance. I only trust trend, and trend has a slight short-term bullish bias here. Not a strong one at all, but it is in there as long as it's above this morning's low at 1562. If it goes below there, then I guess I'd look for that pullback, maybe somewhere down closer to 1500. Somewhere between 1450 to 1500. But like I said, I don't think it's going lower than last week's low without a decent bounce first, likely towards the 2000s. But again, this can take a long time to play out, like multiple weeks. Looking at these higher term timeframes here, which again, I don't think is relevant to you, but fair enough. Let's see. Reading through some of these. Abdul says TIA. Okay. TIA. Okay. This one was popular early on in the cycle, and now it is not. And I wonder why. Or at least I think it was this one early in the cycle. Like most things, long term, I think you're down. Short term, it can easily bounce here. I think you probably will pop back up towards 265 if you can trade back above the Saturday the 12th high, which is just a smidgen higher than that, actually, at 267. Then I think you carry on with this bounce a lot more, closer to like $3, maybe even a bit above $3. But don't confuse that with like a bullish call on this. You're just looking for the next lower, or I would just be looking for the next lower high in this instance. Whether it comes somewhere here, or maybe even somewhere here, I don't fucking know. But one of these is going to be it. I'm nearly sure of it. And what I can also say is that I just don't think that you're going to be doing nothing like this anytime soon. And whenever you do get a pop up, those are selling chances. So if it did get back around here, I'd look at that as a gift from God as well. All good, Danny Khalifa. All good, man. Let's see what else we got. Symbol chain. All right. I thought this was Chain Link, but it's not. It's Chain Games. Okay, different chart in the short term, that's for sure. Long term, not so much. It's got the dead chart of destiny going on there, as usual, as you would expect for most shitcoins. But do I think that you try another move to the upside? Maybe around like 3.5 cents. But I don't think it's going to be doing anything sustained to the upside. Yeah, somewhere between 3.5 cents. If it does have another one of these spikes up, the obvious area to be looking for would be 5 cents. But yeah, man, it's just a dead heartbeat here. This is, I really, it's like you're playing a game of musical chairs, because you're looking for that quick pop up like you've seen, time and time again, but you have to get out just about as fast as you got in. I mean, these pumps last for like a day or two, and then it just bleeds out. So, if it does do another one of these here, that's what I'd be thinking, Mom. Long term, the trend is quite clear. Craden C says, Krown, Elsa, thanks for all you do. All good, man. Coffee on me. I appreciate that. I got some right here, actually. Still need to polish some of this off. Have a beautiful day. You as well, sir. If you could look at the shit coin, I am kidding. I don't give a fuck about shit coins. I mean, yeah, you're all going to be rich. I hope at least. It's kind of how I feel about most of it as well. But, here's the thing. Like, if you don't treat shitcoins as if they're like actually legitimate, if you just realize that they're shitcoins, you could make a lot of money with them theoretically. They have some pretty impressive moves, but holding on to these things for any prolonged period of time, I think it's a losing strategy long term. Like they're gonna be going against you long term. So the longer you hold it, the more and more likely it's gonna be going against you. Philson says, could we do Tau BUSD? Does it have to be versus BUSD? I guess. Higher or low on the 4 hour. I think that this one tries a little bit higher here. Short-term reversal, maybe back around like 280, something like that. Daily kind of has what I'd be looking for on a lot of these altcoins, where you have this first spike low here, lower low here, higher low here. If you can trade back above the 12th of April's high, then you got at least a daily reversal confirmed. And I think that this thing could see back above $300. Long term, not a humongous fan of this chart, but you are bouncing off of your last major macro low from August of 2024. So, I think that this bounce could actually get pretty well underway. Like I said, I think most things in this market are setting up for decent bounces. This thing could easily get to like 350, maybe even 400 if things get really crazy. But that's what I'd be looking for on a rejection. See what else we got. Lauren Williams says H bar. Okay, H bar. Let's see. H bar USD. This one was like one of the Trump coins, I think, or something like this. Again, similar to the last one, actually, does have a potential higher low in here. So I'd treat this one as a reversal as long as it's above 15.5 cents. Next move should retest that 12th of April high, which is just under 18 cents. If you can close above there, then you got a short-term reversal, and I'd extend those targets to like 20 cents or something, somewhere around there. Long term, I don't know what to make of this thing, but short term, yeah, I do think at some point you're gonna bounce back above 20 cents. They act like commodities. What does? When golden bull run? Well, Mr. De Dios, good to see you, brother. I think we've had one. I think we had one actually. It was most of 2024 actually, or basically all of 2023 and 2024 even. All right, we'll do a couple more and then we'll call it a day. Okay. Danny Khalifa says, Krown, how to start moving towards becoming a market maker, ready to spend a lot of time to learn. Any suggestions? Okay, so it's going to be pretty difficult if you don't actually know someone who is a part of a firm who can, put in a good word for you and kind of get you through the process. It's going to be pretty difficult. I'm assuming that you're not in university still, but if you are in university, your best bet is to go to a top school and study mathematics and coding or computer science and statistics, and then you could start to apply to firms. There's a ton of different firms. You don't need to go with like a super big one. You could go with like a mid or smaller one. I was in a mid/smaller one. I'd say it was probably less than 100 people for sure. Probably closer to like 30 to 50, I would imagine. And yeah, that's how most of these firms hire. Unless if you know someone in there, which is how I got in. Like I would have not gotten in if I had to get in the traditional way. I got very, very lucky, to be extremely honest. I just got lucky. Like father's friend was a part of a firm. Okay. I was able to get in through there. I was able to provide some value to them, with things that I knew that they didn't know, essentially, and basically helping them out with like computer bitch work, shit like this. In exchange, they showed me the ropes, and that was the way that I got in. But I understand that that's not going to be reasonable for most people. And the way that pretty much everyone else got in or got involved in it is either they were very old and came during a time when you didn't need any of this and you can actually just do it yourself. But that was like 20, 30, 40 years ago where you could do something like that and be independent. or they came through recently, like a major college studying one of those fields, or preferably all of them, because those are the people that they want to hire. Chris says, can you take a look at SHX? Shix Stronghold token. Actually, not bad. Really not bad. In fact, this one still has higher lows the whole way through. It was not around in a prior cycle, but it did survive the bear market cycle and put in weekly higher lows. So I like that. I do think that this one is putting in yet another higher low here. And I do think you will, in the relatively short term, over the next month, maybe get back to about 1 cent. Yeah, the monthly really does look like a major macro high, but I'm going to go with some hopium here and say, it at least gets to like 1 cent. If you see a rejection, especially below 1.5 cents, I mean, that is kind of your bull trappy region, but it can bounce up a lot here, somewhere around here, which is a pretty big move for it. So, I mean, and maybe I shouldn't be going against the long-term trend. It's just whenever I see something like this on an altcoin, it's like, more than likely it is done. But at least another big bounce. And to be fair, it does have a much better chart than most things, especially almost every altcoin. Let's say 99.9%. Bitcoin holding strong compared to stocks for some reason. Yeah, I've seen a lot around the space about this. The correlation is, or Bitcoin is acting relatively strong. I think it's just way too early to say something like this, because last time that people were saying this was actually just a couple of weeks ago, and what happened. I mean, obviously Bitcoin followed everything else. So yeah, realistically, these sort of trends and correlations should be observed and studied over multiple months, rather than just like a few days, in my opinion. So, is Bitcoin holding up a little bit stronger here? If we're looking at just on a day-to-day basis, yeah, it is a little bit stronger, from that perspective, but I don't really see any major differences between these charts, to be fair. Nothing, certainly nothing structural. I mean, they're both in downtrends, right? All right, Adam John, last one for Adam John. He says, any thoughts on GME? Okay, GME, GameStop. I don't know. I haven't looked at this one in a while, but it does look to me like it's in yet another pump phase here. Yeah. I think that this one tries some upside coming into the next couple of weeks, $30 plus, somewhere between like 30 to 35. Again, weekly momentum turning back up. It has a higher low as well. The trend is your friend, man. Monthly. Yeah, I think that this thing could even reclaim your January high. If it does that, then this thing can run a lot more, let's say closer to $50 if that happens, but at least somewhere around there in the next month, I would imagine. Only bearish if it really comes back down below like $24.50. And I don't even know if I'd call that bearish. I'd just say that it's going to continue sideways for a while. Yeah, this one actually looks a lot better than most things, to be fair. But yeah. All right, sirs and zers. It's been a nice Friday live stream. It's been a very quiet live stream, very little going on, but I appreciate everyone coming in regardless, because, well, I need some fucking friends to hang out with, and there ain't much to do in this market right now. So I'm going to be signing off on that note. Again, just wishing everyone the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully